Just a reminder to vote in this week's Locals poll, where you decide what deck I take to Locals every single week. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have the deck profile for the deck we took to Locals this past week, being Appliancers. We didn't have an official tournament, we just played casual games because the guy that runs the tournaments wasn't able to be there. But we did pretty good. We went 2-0, defeating Utopia and Amazonas. So, yeah, it was really fun. The deck performed well. So here's a cut to what it looks like on paper. Then we'll get to the card by card. Alright, so starting off with the monsters, I'm actually just going to talk about all three at once. So we have 3 copies of Appliancer Slot Control, 3 copies of Appliancer Copy Buckle, and 3 copies of Appliancer Breaker Bunkle. So, Slot Control is basically what makes the whole deck go round. So basically, it has 2 effects. If you control an Appliancer monster, you can special summon it from your hand. And then if another Slot Control is special summoned while this guy's on the field, you can special summon another one from the deck. So this allows you to kind of facilitate link climbing. Copy Buckle also helps with that, because you can target an Appliancer monster you control, special summon this card from your hand, and have this be treated as the targeted monster's name. So basically what you can do is you can normal summon this, special this, have it treat it as another Slot Control, then activate this to special summon a third one from the deck. So this just facilitates your link climbing. Then Breaker Bunkle is for protection. So during damage calc, you can discard this to prevent your monster from being destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage. And then you can banish this from the graveyard to protect an Appliancer from being destroyed by a card effect. So that's going to be it for the monsters, actually. So next, let's move on to the spells. So first, we're going to go over the actual Appliancer spells first. So we have 1 Appliancer Test, 3 copies of Appliancer Reuse, and then 3 copies of the field spell, Appliancer Electrolyrical World. So Appliancer Test is very similar to Soul Charge in a way. So you target your Link 2, you special summon as many Link 1s from your graveyard as possible to the zones it points to, but they're banished during the end phase, but then of course you can just use them for Link material. So, yeah. That's how you can capitalize on that. Appliancer Reuse is basically a monster reborn for any Appliancer monster, and then if it leaves the field, it gets put on the bottom of the deck. So that's good for just being able to extend, play through interruptions, things like that. And this card's also not once per turn, so just keep that in mind. The field spell, basically when it's activated, you search an Appliancer card. Usually it's going to be one of your monsters, but you can search one of your spells. And then if you link summon an Appliancer, you get one of the link materials back from your graveyard to your hand. And then it does have an effect where you can move your Appliancer to a different monster zone when an attack is declared involving it. And we'll explain more why that's important once we get to the extra deck. So next, moving on to some of the more generic spells now. I'm running 3 copies of Machine Duplication. And then I'm also just going to go and talk about 3 Upstart Goblin. So Upstart Goblin, this is, of course, just as a way to thin out the deck, draw a card. Pretty self-explanatory. Machine Duplication, this helps facilitate your link plays, since all the Appliancer main deck monsters have less than 500 attack. So, of course, you want to see that as often as possible. Next, going to some of the limited spells, we have Reasoning, because that way if our opponent doesn't know what we're playing, then we can declare level something other, or hopefully they declare level other than 1, and then we get a free special summon. Terraforming to search the field spell. Call by the Grave to combat things, mainly Ash, but also Droll as well, but mainly Ash is the one you're worried about. 1 Snatch Steal, just to kind of capitalize on our opponent building a big board, especially if we're going second. Same thing with Change of Heart, just able to steal an opponent's big monster, then just beat them with it. We actually did we use this one on a Utopia, so we couldn't negate the attack, and then we use this one on the Amazonas Augusta. Next, rounding out the spells is 3 copies of Messenger of Peace. So with this, it basically makes it to where only we can attack, because all the Appliancer monsters, except for one, have less than 1500 attack. So this is just a good way to basically make it to where we control the game. Because we had to make a few changes to this deck because of the 2 most recent ban lists banning certain floodgates, like summon limit. So I decided to myself, if I couldn't prevent them from summoning their big boss monsters, I'll just make it to where they can't attack. So, yeah, that's it for the spell, so let's go to the traps. Okay, so starting off with the normal traps, 1 parallel port armor, and then 1 booby trap E. So, parallel port armor, it basically makes it to where a link monster you control cannot be targeted by card effects and also cannot be destroyed by battle. And then it does have a grave effect where you can banish it into link monsters to target a link monster on your field and give it 2 attacks. That doesn't come up that often, but it is there. Booby Trap E is one of the newer ones, one of the newer additions to the deck. And so basically by discarding a card, you can set a continuous trap from your hand or graveyard, and then it can be activated that turn. So it's like, oh, you Twin Twistered my Rivalry of Warlords, I'll get Booby Trap E to just get it right back. So it's a good way to just kind of stay in the game after some blowout cards. Next, we're running 2 Imperial Custom, just so that way to prevent our face-up continuous traps from being destroyed. Just so that way, you know, hopefully we can try to stick around. We are only running 2, though, because you don't want to open multiples of it. So, you know, opening, like, double Imperial Custom feels really, really bad. And next, going to the actual floodgates, we have 3 copies of Mistake, 1 Curse of Darkness, and 1 Rivalry of Warlords. So, Mistake, it basically makes it to where neither player can search cards. And so basically, you know, ideally we want to go first, so we can, and the only searching we're really doing is with the field spell, so we activate the field spell, do our thing, set this, and go, so then that way we can shotgun this in the standby phase, so then they cannot search. Rivalry of Warlords basically makes it to where you can only control 1 type of monster. This is at 1 right now. At the time of recording, it is limited, so we can only play 1. Curse of Darkness, this is kind of a, it's a placeholder right now for Rivalry, in case it ever comes back to do. I doubt it will, but it's possible. Although, it does actually help, because because then, again, if our opponent tries to still, like, combo and stuff, if they're using a bunch of spell cards, for each one, they take 1,000 damage. I mean, this also applies to us. If we activate a spell, then we take 1,000 damage, but it's just a very nice way to keep the opponent at bay, or at the very least, punish them for trying to make big plays. So yeah, that's it for the main deck. Let's go on to the extra deck. Okay, so for the extra deck, so I'm actually going to kind of go out of order here. So the first one I want to talk about is our 3 copies of Appliancer Celtipus. So basically, while this points to a monster, it cannot be targeted by card effects or by your opponent's attacks. Okay, and then during damage calculation, if an Appliancer or Link monster you control that is co-linked to this battles a monster, it gains attack for every, or gains 1,000 attack for every monster that's co-linked with this card. Then it does have a third effect that doesn't really come up that often, though, being that if an Appliancer monster that's not co-linked with this card is destroyed, you get to draw a card. So basically, this is kind of your main guy. You prioritize getting him out, so then you can get started with your shenanigans. So the next one I'm going to talk about is we run 2 copies of Appliancer Dryer Drake. And so most of the time you're going to want to summon him here, so he's co-linked, right? And so while he is linked, he gains 1,000 attack. So whether he's here or here, he gains 1,000 attack. And so basically, offensively, what you want to do is you want to summon it here, and then have one that's co-linked here. Because then, after they both attack, you can actually activate his effect to switch their locations, and then the one that got moved here can attack again. And then if he's not co-linked and he's targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack. Next, moving on to our 2 copies of Appliancer Kappa Scale. You're normally going to be summoning him here. And so, basically, while he's co-linked, you can tribute him to revive any Appliancer link monster. If he's summoned over here, then you tribute him to special summon one of your main deck monsters back from the grave. But either way, he is revival. Next, 3 copies of Appliancer Vacuolifant. And so we're running 3 of this one because he is removal. So basically what you do is if he's co-linked, then you can target a card in your opponent's main monster zone and destroy it. Then if it's summoned over here, then he can attack directly. But you're mainly going to be putting him here, though, just for the attack boost. But then he does also have a third effect, where you can just send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to target any card your opponent controls and destroy it. But you have to choose between that and the co-linked monster pop. So you have to choose in order to do that. Next, running 2 copies of Appliancer Propylion. You're mainly going to be summoning him here. So with this one, it basically, for both, it modulates the opponent's attack points. And regardless of where it is, this one can actually attack directly. So if it's co-linked and any Appliancer battles an opponent's monster, you can drop that opponent's monster's attack to 0. But if he's summoned over here, then it's only when they attack him. But so obviously you're going to mainly do here just for that flexibility. So yeah, obviously he's the one you go for big damage, because if you have this and then say a Vacuolifant here, he's going to get pumped up to 3,200 and he's going to get pumped up to 3,000. So yeah, that's really nice there. Then finally, the last card in the extra deck we're going to talk about is our 3 copies of Appliancer Laundry Dragon. So with this one, neither player takes battle damage from attacks involving it. So this is good as a going first option. And so basically, if it's summoned here, where it's co-linked, then after damage calculation, then you can banish that opponent's monster. And again, ideally, he's going to get pumped up to 35. Or even if you have just this, he's 2,500. So yeah, that's going to banish your opponent's monster after damage calculation. If he's summoned over here, then after damage calculation, he's going to destroy that opponent's monster and inflict damage equal to its attack points. Or rather, its original attack. So yeah, we're running 3 of this one, just because it can be used going first or second, depending on what our opponent has. So, yeah, and one other thing, all of the Link 1 monsters have an effect where they cannot be used as Link material the turn they are Link summoned. So, yeah, that's actually going to be it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is a lot of fun. It's really wacky, But yeah, it's really wacky, a lot of fun. People never see it coming, and so a lot of times they just don't know what to do against it. And it's also dirt cheap. That's the best part. Like, the cards are really, really cheap, except for, like, One Day of Peace. I know that one's $1 or $2 by itself for one copy. So, you know, for a playset, it'd probably be close to $10, including shipping. But all in all, it's a cheap deck that's really fun, really wacky. I had a great time with it. Like, subscribe, vote in the Locust poll, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys next time.